Thank you so much. I'll be here for questions, and if you'd like anything else, I'll be walking the floor. My name is Zac Pierce. I'm a game developer from Painesville, Ohio. That's about 2.5 hours northeast of here. And I've been making video games for about 4 years now. And I'm here to give us a little talk called Failing to Succeed, Looking Beyond the Postmortem. In kind of a Shakespearean kind of overview, we'll be talking about a game that I worked on, its birth, its life, its death, and then its rebirth, or at least whatever happened to me after that. And if you read the description, this will touch a little bit into me after that. A game, expectations that go in. What happens if those expectations don't meet, if they don't meet, if they aren't met, and where to go from there, as well as what you feel along the way. So, let's get started with the back then. In the back then, we had young Zac. He looked a little like this. My goodness, he was bright-eyed. He was ready to face the future. But let's go over his stats real quick. Weaknesses, cleft chin. It's right there. It's strong. It stands out before everything else. 1,000 plus hours of Team Fortress 2. Incredible? Pretty incredible. I could have been doing anything to advance my life or career in that time. And in some ways I did, but in most ways I just played a lot of soldier. Also ginger. A lot more ginger back then. I faded a bit. Let's go into strengths though. We don't want to stay on the negatives for too long. This guy was able to make StarCraft levels back then shoot, what company made StarCraft? Blizzard, their world editor. I made skins for TF2. I was part of a clan back then, and they loved having little custom skins with everybody's names on them. My rocket launcher says my name on it. I made levels for them too, and I made Flash games. I enjoyed programming an action script. I learned that back in high school. And this guy's destined for greatness. Lord, I hope he is. So that's a little bit about young me, and now let's talk about the game. The game is BOMBFEST. It's a charming little game. Who here has played BOMBFEST before? My goodness, that's terrifying. Well, thank you guys so much for giving my game a try. I've probably said that like 100 times over all the shows that I've presented at. But thank you so much. I really appreciate that. If you're not familiar with BOMBFEST, it's a little party game where you walk around as a little toy block. I should have brought one. Also should have brought business cards. Long list of things that I should have done prepare for this. You walk around as a little toy block and you throw cartoon bombs at each other. It's kind of like sumo wrestling with explosives. And it's a dang good time if you ask me. But we're going to get into more on that later. You should buy it. Let's talk about the production of BOMBFEST. So our core team was of 2 partners, myself and Marissa Hike from Shawnee State University, and 3 contractors. We had a sound effects artist and 2 composers. It was developed over 4 years, and it took about $30,000 of savings and money earned during development. That money and the money earned in development came out of my pocket. There were no outside contributors outside of a Kickstarter, which we'll get to in a moment. It was published by Whitethorn Digital. This is a relatively new publishing company. I say new because we were their first game, and they have since published a few more after that. They're charming individuals, and our agreement was that they would get 5% of gross sales. Can anybody ballpark me what a normal publisher takes from sales? Anybody shout it out? 30? 70? These are all realistic numbers. That range is pretty common in the industry. So I took a risk on them, and they took a risk on me. We'll see how that panned out. Console porting was through Whitethorn Digital as well, so this was originally a PC title, and they were kind enough to provide engineers and experience to port this to Switch, PlayStation, and Xbox, and Mac and Linux. We ran 2 Kickstarters and garnered $8,000. Does anybody remember the first Kickstarter? That one bombed. It was horrible. The first one failed, and the second one, thankfully, got funded. Actually, I should have had more slides about that in here, because that's a great story, but somebody asked me about that at the end. Some great stuff there. The entire Kickstarter sum was spent on marketing through the Indie Bros, who are a moderately sized marketing group that market indie games exclusively. And we'll learn more about them in a bit. So leading up to launch, we presented at GDEX, this show, 3 years in a row. I think the first time was the first time it was called GDEX after being OGDE. No, it wasn't. Oh, no. I wrote the frickin' biography for this game, and I can't remember how it happened. I should have done good slides, guys, but instead you get these. We presented independently at PAX South, which was a wild ride. That city is incredible, even without PAX there. We passed certification on all major consoles leading up to launch, which was its own ordeal. If you haven't pushed a game through certification, you don't know the hell that awaits you. It's the worst. It's somebody like coming up to you in the nursery after you've had a newborn child and being like, yeah, its right arm's wrong, just cut it off. And then send it back to us. Oh, pay us another $1,000, please. Yeah. Stop motion and live action commercials produced and distributed. We made a couple of really charming commercials. If somebody wants to see those at the end, we got some extra time. I'd love to show them off because we made full-size costumes. You've probably seen them here if you've seen BOMBFEST before. We danced around with them and we did a frame-by-frame recreation of the Smash 64 live action commercial, but with our characters. I'm so proud of that, and I am so sad that it has only done so much. Someday it'll reach the views that make me happy, but until then, I'm an unhappy father. So let's talk about launch day. This is the moment you've all been waiting for. Me, I'm on the edge of my seat. This game has been performing very well at all shows. We garnered crowds. I don't think I've got any pictures in here just because I thought it was excessive, but we would get 30 people standing around our booth at every show. PAX South, at GDEX consistently, at PAX East earlier this year. It was incredible. We had every reason to believe that this thing would go nuts. Did I miss a slide? No, I didn't. I just missed the last thing that fades in slowly. Confirmed launch price of $19.99 on all platforms simultaneously. That's important. Launch day. Here we are. There's our costumes. They're kind of cool. We sold around 100 copies. I was expecting more applause, but that's fine too. Thanks. Despite 300,000 impressions from marketing, these indie bro guys, we gave them a relatively small fund when it comes to marketing. 300,000 impressions by my standards is stupidly good. If you want to do the quick math on the return on investment there, or if you do like online marketing, what the click-through rate is, it's pretty small. It's very small. It's like 0.002%. You're looking at 1% to be like decent, and 2% means you're doing good. That's pathetic. We garnered less than 5 direct contacts from customers, and I know that doesn't make sense, but what I mean was I sat there for 5 hours after launch, after hitting launch, and said, I'm going to take every message and fix every problem. I think I got 3. And 2 of them were just like, hey, what if you did this? Also, it's fun. Like, that's great, but what's wrong with it? I'm here. I personally received $785.84 from launch day. And if you guys are familiar with how these graphs usually go, it's usually something like you start here on launch and it goes up, and then it kind of goes down like this, and then it smooths for a while. So with this number, my little peak is like this, and then it's just kind of hit the ground and dig its way through the dirt for a while. That's really lame. That's really low for something that I've spent so long on. 6 months after launch, we joined the Indie Mega Booth at PAX East. It was an incredible honor that they were willing to include us, and it was wildly successful. We promoted BOMBFEST through Xbox's Games with Gold promotion. I recently tried to look that up. I know it happened. I think it was a discount instead of a free game that was given away, but still, we actually saw a large increase in sales during that time. We regularly participate in cross-console sales to the lowest price of $8.96. When I say regularly participate in cross-console sales, that means whenever there was a Steam sale, I made everything else cheaper too, because you get in trouble if you make one of them cheaper and you don't make the other ones cheaper. Fun fact, if you're ever putting games on sale. And we permanently reduced the price to $12.99, which is the price right now. I assume sometimes our publisher puts things on sales when I'm not looking, and it's fine. I trust him with that, but I get surprised sometimes. I personally received $8,163.92 from the first 6 months. You can run some math on that versus my initial investment, and you also get some depressing numbers now, don't you? $8,000. How was I feeling in that moment? It felt like failure. I'm sitting there saying my launch price, well, it must have been too high. $19.99 was great for a local multiplayer game in 2014 when I started development. That was back when Towerfall was out, Gang Beasts was first released into early access, and a number of other prominent local multiplayer games were being released. 1999, Nidhogg was released then. It was still going for 20 bucks. I mean, Nidhogg is a wonderful, really nuanced game, but I'm sitting there saying, Nidhogg has 4 levels and very limited content? I provide 10 times that. I think I can justify it being the same price. But sales and numbers would show otherwise. Personal reach was too low. Through the Kickstarters we did, I had a personal reach of about 250 people, which means if I were to do something and ask people to come check something out, about 250 people would reliably show up. And that still seems amazing to me, but with the research I do into how these big companies and stuff do it, you need thousands, tens of thousands for something to be successful on launch. If you want that launch day spike, you've got to have the numbers. You've got to have people show up to that launch party and pledge that not only do they care enough to purchase your product, but they're willing to support it and promote it to friends. And, well, my reach was a little low. Savings spent poorly early on. A lot of those savings I had, let's see, around 13,000 out of college. I had a I was blessed with a very good job out of college, and I worked there for over 3 years to save up this much to pursue game development professionally. I said this much, okay, even if I screw up majorly, I still have some savings to invest in a new job. Well, all of it disappeared, but we were able to get a game out of the door. Regardless, a big chunk of that was just me being dumb with my money early on. The first year, I probably spent 8,000 of it, not doing too much and working on games that weren't BOMBFEST. It was silly. It was unwise of me. Young Zac, greatest weakness apart from the cleft chin would be poor money management skills. I spent hundreds of hours to lose roughly $22,000 of investment. I'm an entrepreneur. I went to the University of Akron. I have a degree in computer science and a minor in entrepreneurship. But you don't need a minor in entrepreneurship to tell you that that's a bad investment. That's a lot of money you could be spending on other things. And it's terrifying to see that or to think back on it. At least I have Webster. This is my cat. He's adorable. This was probably 5 or 10 years ago, and he's deaf right now, and he doesn't even know when I'm walking past him, and he'll trip me half the time. But he's still just a good sport about things. But how I'm feeling is described as the opposite of this slide. I felt horrible. We went to the launch party in Erie, PA, with Whitethorn, which is where they're located. And we were in a smoky back room, and I remember Matt, the head publisher, saying, "You guys almost sold 100 copies." And I said, "Ooh, ooh, that's not so hot, man." He still gave me a very nice little plaque that said, "You released a game." And I said, "I can walk home with this." And to lift my spirits a little bit, we had some very good friends. Is anybody familiar with Drawfee? They're a channel on YouTube that does art and stuff. 2 of their members, Julia and Jacob, were very kind to stream out of their schedule BOMBFEST in front of a big audience, which was uplifting to hear them say nice things, even when it broke on stream. And that was one of the few things keeping me pulling forwards, other than the supports of friends and family, because I'm like, wow. I was back sophomore year of college, and I felt a calling, like a spiritual calling to make video games. I didn't know what that meant, but I quit everything and I started making them. I didn't quit college, but I quit like pursuing whatever else I could have pursued, software engineering or a hardware developer. And I said, this is what I'm supposed to do, so I'm going to do it. Whether that was wise or not, that's up for you to decide. So here I am in the depths of this. And maybe you've been there before. You've made something and you've shown it to others, and maybe it went well initially, but when you try to put this thing to the test, it falls apart. You probably feel horrible. You probably sit there and say, this was me. I invested in this. When this fails, I fail. And of course, that's a fallacy. You're not your product. You are the designer. You're the creator. You can't limit yourself to that. But you still, after you've gotten through that, you got to ask yourself, what can you do? Give up on yourself. Well, you can't do that. It's your product. It's not you. Like I jumped ahead a bit there. You can't give up on yourself. Can you give up on games, perhaps? Maybe you're a game developer and your game didn't go over well. Should you do that? I wanted to do that. I wanted to give up immediately. I said, this isn't sustainable. Clearly, those numbers are not sustainable. Ask anybody. You could throw more money at a loss. I had a number of people begging me to do this. Not naming any names, but I was said, you know what, you're just not throwing enough money at it. Like, go take out a loan, just go throw some more marketing cash at it, just get it pushed out there more. That could be the right answer. I don't know. I didn't choose that. But sometimes it is. Sometimes it's just a gambler's fallacy. And you're pouring more money on something that's just twitching. It's not even alive anymore. Or, obvious answer, make the best of what you have. Obvious being I was leading up to this the whole time. Maybe not immediately obvious, but make the best of what you have. I had to sit there and I said, okay, what do I do? Who am I? What do I have? I've come up with 3 foolproof steps to figure out what to do in the situation. And by that, I mean I made up 3 words and I put some text underneath it. And these aren't, you shouldn't write these down. But the general idea behind them, there might be something good that comes out of it. I tried to make this good, guys. Identify what was lost and what was gained. In my situation, I sat down and I said, what did I lose? Okay, monetarily, I can count that number. It's not pretty. Hours invested. Okay, there was a lot of hours invested. What was gained? I made a product. It's on platforms. You can boot up any gaming console right now, and you can download it. That's nuts. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that later. But there were a number of things that when I sat there, I said, yeah, I gained from this. 2, look, that's kind of vague. At things, objectively, outside of the box. I sat there and I said, okay, from what I have, it's this game, it's this time that I invested, it's this loss of money. What does it look like when I take my bias out? All of a sudden, there's a person, an entrepreneur who made a product that exists. It is quality. I want to reiterate, for all the things that I'm insecure about, the quality of BOMBFEST is something I'm not. People consistently enjoy it. I've gotten negative feedback once, and I know it wasn't people just being nice to my face. It's people genuinely enjoying it. I've put this thing to the test as far as users are concerned, and it consistently does well. Price, marketing, personal reach, those things, there's my faults. But as far as the product, it's good. So looking at it, we've got a good product. We've got years of experience that went into something and something that was created. We'll get into that a little bit more. And finally, make a plan of action so something happens. You can think through this as much as you want, but unless you do something with it, it's just going to sit there. I spend so much of my time up at night staring at my ceiling, thinking through what I could have done differently. Every talk, every line of what I'm saying right now, I'll go sit at home and say, how could I have said that better? How could I have said that funnier? How could I have said that smarter? And I'm going to waste all that time just because I'm a neurotic person like that. But you actually got to do something too. Take what you have and make something out of it. So, today, let's talk about old Zac. That's me. Weaknesses. He's unsure of the future. He's really concerned about stuff. He's not sure what's going on. 100 additional hours of Team Fortress 2. I don't have those new pyro weapons yet because I didn't play when they come out, but I'm going to reboot sometime and get those because I have every weapon, including some of the ones you can't get anymore. Still ginger. That hasn't changed, regrettably. Strengths. Beard covers chin. Primary weakness covered, folks. As far as y'all know, that cleft has gone away. I make a sustainable, not a wonderful, not a great, but a sustainable income doing what I love. And still destined for greatness? I had a question mark on here, but then I said, that's too pessimistic, Zac. You should say you're still destined for greatness. I hope so. So, while I'm looking back, while I'm trying to identify, I can't remember the words I wrote earlier, but those things, here's what I found. Invaluable relationships were formed. These are some of the people who are part of Whitethorn. We've got the group that's working on Calico. We've got the group that's working on Starcrossed. If you're from Cleveland Game Developers, you see our good friend Oogby up there, who is working on Tinselfly. That was close. And just wonderful people. I had the chance to meet one of my heroes, which is Rami, who is one of the biggest names in indie developers. And I got to have dinner with the guy and pick his brain. It was nuts. I got to meet some of my heroes, like him. I got to meet the people from Druffy, who were incredibly charming. And if you think they're funny on camera, they're literally just being themselves. They're great people. And I've also got to meet fellow developers who really encourage and inspire me. Some are sitting in this room, and that's incredible. Like, These are people that make me believe that things can happen, and change can happen, and you can achieve incredible things. And experience was gained. I made something. I have a game on my portfolio. I can say, hey, you want to know what it's like? Here's a key. Go download it on your favorite console. This pays off in big ways. I don't know about you guys, but when you were in college, you were probably offered opportunities for internships, or you were encouraged to take them or find them. These things pay off a lot more than your degree does. And for me, it paid off a lot. And then when I went to get a job, my boss didn't care I had a degree or not because it was me. And now that I have a game, all of a sudden, that's an incredible marketing point for me when it comes to getting future work. Speaking of future work, there's industry credibility. I actually don't know how much of that I got. I assume that some people know me, and they don't think I'm horrible. But there's the undeniable fact that my name is on something. And sure, it didn't meet my expectations and my dreams, but it exists. Sometimes that's enough. Teaching game development at multiple schools. There are 2 schools in Cleveland where I've taught game development. This was one of them. It's Cleveland International High School, a school that only has a 9th grade, interestingly enough. And I taught game development. We're playing BOMBFEST up there right now. But we were working on a s'mores-based video game where your hero could throw marshmallows, chocolate blocks, and graham crackers, and do some fancy platforming. But just seeing what kids come up with is incredible, and they inspire me in return. Hopefully I inspire them. Freelance opportunities for game developers, small and large. Right now I work for a number of people who are producing games, and I work with them. I've got a group that I'm developing a game from scratch from. I have a larger company where I'm developing a VR experience for them, and I have memory loss. I have a third thing where I'm doing things. Holy crap. The lights do so much to make it hard to think. 3, 2, 1. Oh, yeah, there's a game called Earth Night. It's coming out relatively soon, and I'm helping port it to Switch with my friend Jared Huntley, who some of you may be familiar with, who's spoken up here before. You should hire me. There'll be more of that at the end. So how am I feeling now? I'm feeling hopefully optimistic. With freelance work, I should be able to make just over $30,000 this year. That's with a game selling all the sales that come from that, so that $8,000 and whatever comes after that, which I won't have next year. But through the freelance opportunities I've gained, I've been able to make a lot more from that. You can do the math once more. 30,000 minus 8,000 means that freelance opportunities have been an incredible boon. And I don't say that to be full of myself. 30,000 is less than a starting software programmer's salary 4 years ago. They should be making 35,000 out of the gate, and then you should be building that up much quickly. Why don't people hire me? And so this is not yet even reaching what I could have done if I never started games. But it's something. It's not going to support a family of 4.5 people, but it's something. I have time to complete projects and spend time with my fiance. That's an incredible blessing. I haven't told some people in here that I am dear friends with that I'm engaged, but you know now. We can talk later. I have time to complete projects and work on things. I can sit down and play Destiny 2. And it is good after you get through the onboarding progress. Other than that, it kind of bites. I'm excited to work on more projects in the future. There's games that I still want to make, and I'll get to do that as long as I can get that 30,000 a little bit higher to support other people. And if not, I'll just do that for the rest of my life, and I'll be content, I guess. I will be. I'll be content. You got to take what you can get. So yeah, there's... Oh, shoot. We don't want to get there yet. I'm hopefully optimistic about the future. It's not the best. It's not where I want it to be. I wanted to be opening a game development studio right now. You can go read that on my website where it's like, what does Zac want to do in the future? He wants to open a studio. He wants to hire people. He wants to pay them, to give people a paycheck for doing what they love and using the skills they have. I still want to do that. In some ways, I do. I pay the people on the team for BOMBFEST every month when I get money in from the game. I write a paycheck. For some reason, that's just so amazing to me. People are making money because of their skills and abilities, and I want to do that more. That's what makes me happy, just allowing people to be the best of who they are and make incredible things. And like I said, maybe this money isn't the hottest thing. It's definitely more than minimum wage when it comes to making a yearly salary, but it's not yet at what I'd like when it comes to supporting others in a more financially stable way. that I hope to get there someday. But I'm optimistic that I will. I pray for it every day. And you know what? Sometimes that's all you can do. So, speaking of working on projects in the future, thank you guys for sitting through this whole mess. I wanted to show you what I'm working on right now. I've been working on a charming little game. It is a 2D game that you can play on your phone. I have a prototype and it doesn't work. Or I show you. I grew up with the Tony Hawk games on PlayStation. I grew up with a lot of games, but those ones were just so charming to me. They were ridiculous and chaotic, and they made you feel like you knew what a skateboard was. I still don't, but someday I will. I also enjoy really relaxing games, and I enjoy stuff like Animal Crossing. You know what I wanted to do in that game the whole time? I didn't want to pay off my debt. I just wanted to catch every fish. That was my passion. And I wanted to find a way to combine these experiences, this horribly chaotic and crazy skateboarding game and this very relaxing collecting fish game. So for the first time publicly, and who knows if this game will ever come out, but I'm going to finish it someday, I'd like to show you a little logo for a game I like to call Tomahawk Pro Skating Big Bass Challenge. Coming to your phones or computers or whatever someday. But I'm still working on it, and the fun part there is you got to keep making stuff. Even if you've tried your hand in the games industry and you find yourself saying, maybe this isn't for me, maybe I wasn't cut out for this, you still have a creative spirit, and I'm sure there's some way you can utilize that in the future. For me, maybe it's working on smaller titles, goofier titles in my spare time, when I'm trying to achieve the other things in my life simultaneously. Maybe it's putting aside time, like I did for 3 years, to pay for BOMBFEST and saying, you know what, these 3 years, they might suck, but they're an investment into the future. And I truly believe BOMBFEST was an investment in the future. Sure, you could say that I failed to succeed, but you could also say that I failed to succeed. Or failed to start succeeding. We're getting there. But yeah, that's my talk. Thank you guys so much, and I'm here for questions. We got a question in the back there. Feel free to raise your hands, guys, if you've got anything. If not, feel free to, I don't know, get out of here, walk up, give me a high five, hire me, whatever you're feeling.
Zac, you didn't get everything that you wanted out of your project. That's very clear. But I think if you look at the outline, there's so much success in everything that you did every step of the way. It didn't pay off in the end, but you really deserve to give yourself a pat on the back for that. You're up here talking to us about a dream that you lived for 3 years. You're about half my age. My beard covers a double chin. And I haven't published a game that's sold anything yet. I've made about $450 to $500 in about 8 years of not really trying because I'm afraid to succeed. And I admire your effort and your spirit, and I envy you. And I'm going to be talking in about another hour about a game that I didn't even write. So come to my talk. But I'm really proud of you, and I'm glad that I backed your game, and it is a great game.
They're not tears, I just splashed my water. Thank you so much, Chris. I really appreciate that. I don't feel that every day. I don't feel that most days. I wake up most mornings and say, Zac, where'd you go wrong? But that really is really encouraging. And yeah, we should talk sometime. If we can work together sometime or something, let me know. We should hang out more. I saw a hand over here. Yes?
Have you seen the news about Steam? They're working on an update that's going to add the ability to play couch co-op multiplayer games over Steam Play? Do you think that's the face I thought you would make?
You got me there. I'm hype about that. Like, a lot of people were really kind of put off by Google Stadia, but that kind of swore to do the exact same thing, even if it's not on your own computer. But this is kind of an accessible version of that. And as long as they are half as good as projects like Parsec are, they've already got it in the bag. And this is going to open up a world for local multiplayer games. You know we're running a sale when that thing goes live, and it's going to be incredible. So who knows? Maybe the renaissance of BOMBFEST is yet to come. We'll see if I have enough money to make another marketing push at that time. But yes, I'm incredibly excited. Yes?
One of the things that terrifies me most is sort of unknown legal things that I just can't possibly know about. And I just have an expectation that, like, if I want to release a product, it'll be like, oh, you don't know? You have to pay $50,000 to get this little stamp or something like that. What's the biggest thing out there that you ran into that you think a lot of people just starting out aren't aware exists?
Legal is what scares me the most, too, out of everything. I try and stick the straight and narrow as much as I can, but when it comes to unknowns, that's terrifying. I encourage everyone, if you've not been to a talk by Ross Hirschman, who regularly does talks at GDEX, he goes over wonderful IP, trademark, copyright sort of talk about the differences between those. That was eye-opening to me. Speaking on some of the legal stuff that BOMBFEST has done, I have a company registered as an LLC, Sudden Event Studios. BOMBFEST is the logo, a copyright. It has a copyright, or rather it has a text, no, shoot, it's a trademark. It's a text mark, a special type of trademark that only applies to text. So in my case, it's capital BOMBFEST, which means as long as my logo kind of uses those letters in a readable font, it's covered. So that's kind of nice. Whitethorn was very kind to provide us access to their legal team, which was an incredible weight off my shoulders for writing contracts, for working with publishers and platforms. We were blessed that Whitethorn offered that to us. Not everyone has those opportunities, but I strongly suggest at least reaching out to a lawyer or to someone who works in IP law for just a quick talk, like buy them dinner and just ask them some basic questions. And when they say, well, I'm just going to have to start charging you for this, consider their rate. If it saves you worry, sometimes that's worth the money alone. And if it saves you legal woes down the way, it's definitely worth it. Always best to do things on the side of the law. Biggest gotcha. Don't use the Switch logo, Xbox logo, or PlayStation logo without their explicit permission. So if you see people out there putting a little Switch logo on like their game mock-up, they can get fried for that. And I don't have to tell you guys how crazy Nintendo is with things. There's a reason they have the fewest Let's Plays on YouTube, just because they keep knocking them out. You don't mess with Nintendo's lawyers. They work in Nintendo of America, which means they're not making games. They're translating, or they're suing other Americans. That's not true, but that's not true in the slightest. But do pay due respect to these guys. They're incredible allies, but they deserve the same respect that you do, and you do deserve respect. So I hope that is the question. Yes, sir.
What is one technical tool that you've found that might be relatively unknown that has been so useful to you in the development process?
Well, I'm one of these. I'm what they call scrappy. I get by with what I got. I did my first skins in Paint, and I still use Paint occasionally for things. Right now I work out of the Adobe suite just because it's reliable and I know it. And I work with a lot of pretty common tools. I'm trying to think. Here's one that's probably like boring to most of you. WinMerge is a wonderful tool that lets you merge things. Like two folders, you can put them together and see the differences. I started using that last week. And now I'm going to use it every day. Because it's an incredible boon, especially when you do local source control and you save your projects locally. You can then compare and say, what's the difference between these two scripts? Why doesn't it work anymore? It worked last week, and now you can tell why. I used to guess and check. And that's probably why BOMBFEST took 4 years instead of a year and a half, like it should have. Whole nother story there. WinMerge, WINMERGE. They don't hire me to teach English. Yes.
Hey, how did you make a connection like Whitethorn and the Indie Bros? Like, where do you find people like that?
Sure. So, Whitethorn was a friend of the wife of the head of Whitethorn Digital. It came out of the blue. Like, by the grace of God, we met. By nothing else. I would say practical advice to that end, though, is network. You want to be at events like this, and which means you're already doing something right. You want to be talking to as many people as you can, and more so than just passing out a business card to everyone in the room. You want to form strong relationships with people. Not strong like they're going to be your best friend forever, but more so you know their name, you know what they're working on, you've already subscribed to them on social media, you check in on them. If something big happens, you shoot them an email and say, hey, congrats. You form a personal relationship with people. It's so easy just to be a name and then, pull up that business card and shoot out an email and hope they get back to you and remember your face, as so many business professionals do. And entertain, because, well, that's how you get up in the world. You got connections, you do favors. But really personal connections is what means the most. That the friend at the end of that friend-wife head of Whitethorn was a dear friend of mine who just happened to be in the right place at the right time. And for the Indie Bros, that was a reference through Whitethorn. They'd worked with them in the past. Yes, they did. Yeah. I was about to say, I'm their first published game. They'd self-published a game before ours. So first published game as a publisher, I should reiterate. We had a question over here.
Yeah, you said ask you about the Kickstarter.
Yeah, so Kickstarter is, I will never do one again. I hate them. They're the worst. It's like a full-time job next to the fact you're trying to release a game. Let no one tell you marketing and social outreach aren't like worth the paycheck of a developer. They truly are. The reason that BOMBFEST's Twitter only gets updated with retweets from Whitethorn Digital is because they have the keys to that car, and I'm very thankful for it because I don't remember to do social media. I just tweeted in the first time in like 4 weeks this morning, can't remember, and it's been a while. So that was a big thing. 2, personal reach was so low, it was so hard to reach enough people to really get a day one boost to Kickstarter. We had everything going for us, though. We had a personal contact in Kickstarter. Reach out to Kickstarter, guys. If you ever do Kickstarter, they want you to succeed. They get money when you do. They're happy to offer you what they can to make it happen. And we had their game's Kickstarter person talking with us in emails. We'd shoot them a message. They'd be like, yeah, you should say this. You should update the Kickstarter this often. You should have this many pictures. You should try and go for this kind of response. And we were able to succeed. First time, our goal was way too high. We had like 25,000. That decision did fall on me at the last moment, and I won't go into it, but I did not think it was wise when I picked it. I'll say that. I did pick it, though. And the second time, we raised about 9,000 on that first one. Second Kickstarter, we did the exact same thing with a goal of 8,000. Hey, guys, you already like this game. Would you mind just rebacking again? You didn't lose any money the first time. Here's better prizes. It worked. Yeah, so that's the short and sweet of it, but there's a lot of nuance there. Yes?
So, Zach, first thing I have to say is I'm so proud of how much work went into this, and mostly just how polished everything is, because 2016, we were on the little table here together for the first time exhibiting, and just seeing it get its full-blown booth every year since then, and seeing it go through the whole process and rigmarole is so awesome. So I'm super proud of you. I just wanted to ask, because you've also done all of these Twitch streams and everything, you wanted to build up this community, and I wanted to just like pick your brain about how building the community through Twitch paid out for you versus like how would you go about it? Just pick your brain about the Twitch streams in relation to BOMBFEST and game development.
Yikes. Twitch is a beautiful thing, and if you have the resources and the time, resources being a computer strong enough to run what you want to stream and streaming software at the same time, go for it. And 2, you probably need a camera. You don't have to have one, but you need a good microphone. And put yourself out there. Do what you enjoy and what you can have fun doing. People don't always look to see what they want to see. They want to see a person. They want a personality they can relate to and someone having fun so they can have fun. Or getting mad. I mean, the Game Grumps do great. And something that people want to come for is personality. And you don't really know if you've got that or if you mesh with the current audience unless you give it a shot. And it's slow going. At the beginning, I had 0 to 2 people in my stream, and they were people I invited like 5 minutes before, and then they showed up an hour late. But for some reason now, I get between 12 and 17, and I don't know why. I just go on there, and I literally develop whatever game I'm developing live. The last year of BOMBFEST, I live streamed it. Like, all the code's there. You can just copy it. You can't copy the trademark. That's not how it works, but you could, in theory, grab quite a bit of it from those streams, which are no longer archived, so good luck. But it was a very interesting endeavor, really connecting with people personally and remembering names and remembering things about people was the biggest thing that I felt drew people back to the streams. It was saying, oh, hey, so-and-so, hey, Ronan, like, how's it going? Like, thank you so much for your help. Ronan now helps manage our community just because he had connected so well with the game and with the streams. He's not in this room, and I know he's here, so that's a problem. But you're not in trouble, Logan. Yeah. Twitch is its own wild beast I still haven't figured out, but they send me paychecks every once in a while. It's really weird. They send you $100 increments. Fun fact, you have to earn $100 through bits, subscriptions, and that sort of thing. And once every like 3 months, I'll get a $100 paycheck. And I'm like, that'll be interesting to do on my taxes. But thanks. I'll buy some fast food this week. Yeah. Questions? Yes?
Zac, I remember seeing your game last year at GDEX and had a ton of fun playing it. But I was wondering, I had some questions about early marketing that you did. Did you find kind of any effective way to market besides Kickstarter and the publisher that you work with?
Let's see. The first 3 years were without a Kickstarter or a publisher, so that was definitely early marketing in that sense. And it was definitely networking at events. It was coming to places like this, shaking every hand, getting every business card. I replied with a personalized email to every card I picked up, and I commit to doing that because what's the point of just getting a canned response or just putting that business card in the Rolodex? It's nothing. But if you make a personal connection, that's when it matters and that's when it counts. It sucks. Not people, but being a not very social person like myself and having to focus and spend that social energy on keeping up with people and going the extra mile is very overwhelming, especially for someone like me, but it's worth it. You know when you get that personal touch that it matters. And maybe they don't get back to you, but for the people that do, it's going to be so much better than getting a canned response of, hey, I make art, contact me. But yeah, do that and look up their stuff. I always Google the name, I Google the username, I try and find some information, and then I write the email and I say, hey, I looked at your reel, I looked at your latest game, I picked up your game because it was cheap enough I could afford it, and I played it. I really liked it and enjoyed it because of this. Make it personal, and that's really the trick. We are a community of people trying to reach people, so if you try and do that in everything you do, you'll find the most success, I think. Final question? Oh, I'll get you.
So you ported BOMBFEST to consoles with some help.
Mhm.
What was the toughest part about that, and is there anything you would do differently if you want to target consoles in the future?
Because of certain relationships I have with certain platform holders, I can only be so specific about things. Let's just say that some consoles are less powerful than others and posed a significant challenge when it came to optimization. I don't know which one that would be. In some ways, it was relatively easy. We've streamlined the process, and it's in people's minds how to certify games and how to make them work on consoles. That, for the most part, it's pretty intuitive, but the little specifics and the little gotchas are weird. I can safely say that all the companies like to have their logos certain ways, and they like to have on-screen buttons set up certain ways, certain colors, certain positions, certain sizes, certain timings, and that gets a little nitpicky. But for the most part, it's technical things. You need to make sure that there's something on screen, that you don't get a null rendering camera, that load times aren't too long. Those are all challenges that we had to face and overcome in porting BOMBFEST. But in some ways, it's things you'd expect. But in other ways, it's little gotchas that you don't see in development that they gotcha. Is that all the time we have?
1 minute.
One more question. All right, what you got?
What was the most challenging presentation you've had to do at a convention center?
This one's pretty tough. Let's see. PAX South was nuts. I don't live in Texas, so getting my stuff there was a nightmare. I had to borrow a TV from a good friend. I had to carry all the costumes in my carry-on luggage. I had to carry a poster that could not be bent or torn. I created a poster tube with 4 PVC pipes taped together along the side and then taped off over the top to make this thing indestructible as its own piece of checked baggage. It looked like a giant pipe bomb. And I wouldn't recommend that, but it kept it safe. I got it through the airport twice. What else did I have to do? But that was nuts. I remember walking away from that show. I was one of the last people to leave on the second day of unpacking. I had to carry everything on my person on one of those little scooters like you see out there, like the limes or the jumps or whatnot. And so I hit everything under my jacket. So I'm like this wide because I got posters and stuff like this and I'm hanging onto a scooter and holding 3 bags in the other hand, just pulling along the city streets. And I fell at least twice, but I made it back to the hotel and nothing was ruined. There was also trying to sneak a skateboard through airport security, which I have done once. And my best advice there is disassemble it first. And sneak it into an overhead container as they're closing, because you're not really supposed to put stuff up there, but if it is and it doesn't slide around, it's fine. Yes?
You ever, like, looking back at this project, BOMBFEST, and maybe you weren't happy with everything, how it ended, but obviously it's a great game, it's great code in it. Do you think about, like, reskinning it all and repurposing a lot of the work that you've already done, ever? Like, to make it an easy game, to try and, you know, just put more stuff out there and try and hit?
That's a good question. I've thought about it. I've had inklings of BOMBFEST 2 over the years. I can't make any official comment on that because that's unwise. But I'm really tired of working on BOMBFEST. A lot of the code and stuff in there I still use to this day. I wrote many helper scripts in there, like converting vector 3s into cardinal directions in percents is a boon, which I've also found there's just a really easy math way to do that. So I waste a lot of time for nothing. But I also wrote stuff like normal distribution curves and standard deviations and easings, like easing in and easing out, which I've also now replaced. A lot of things I still use, and quite a few of them I've replaced with smarter solutions, but a lot of the code that's gone into that and the theory I still use today, whatever I haven't improved upon. So just another way to say that wasn't a failure. It was a stepping stone to something greater. And with that, that's all the time we have. Thank you guys so much.